So in the last video, we talked all about shop layout and coming up with our floor plan. Today, let's talk about some things to think about as we start to move into the shop itself. When I move into a new shop, this is one of the first things I always take a look at, and that's the electrical system. I want to make sure there's plenty of power for the shop so that I'm not popping any of the circuits, say when I'm running two larger tools, such as the dust collector and a table saw, or the dust collector and a jointer. And on top of it, I also want to make sure that if my tools are on the same circuit as, say, I don't know, the kitchen, since the kitchen is right above my shop, if somebody happens to microwave a frozen burrito, I'm down here ripping some lumber. It's not going to turn off the power, and next thing I know, I'm in a dangerous situation with a potentially spinning blade as it's starting to cycle down. So take a few moments and figure out if you have enough electricity to safely run the tools that you plan on running in your shop. One idea that you may have that will add, yet again, another layer of safety, not only for yourself but for your family members, is maybe to have like a sub panels. In other words, have another smaller box coming off of this one in which all of the outlets will be run from that for your shop. One neat thing about this, again, is it helps to guarantee that if somebody else is doing something in another room, it's not going to affect you down here. But on top of it, when you leave the shop, you could potentially turn off all the power to all of the outlets, which means that if small children or very curious teenagers come in here and aren't familiar with the safety practices that you have set up, well, you've already got all the juice turned off to those items, and you don't have to worry about them accidentally turning things on and hurting themselves. Now, expanding just a little bit more on the electrical, when it comes to areas like, in my particular situation, I have my hand tools and my bench over on this side of the shop, but I have no outlets. All my outlets are on an opposite wall over here. So if I were to use a power hand tool such as a sander or maybe a power drill, or if I were to set up my miter saw even, I don't have any outlets to plug them into, obviously. It'd be very easy before I move everything into the shop to maybe have an electrician come in and drop a couple of outlets, but for myself, it's just a matter of using extension cords. So if you were to do this, make sure that you have extension cords that are properly rated for the tools that you're working with. And of course, when you're done with it, just make sure you put them away so you're not tripping all over the place. Something to think about, and this one might get overlooked rather easily, is does your shop have adequate lighting? Before you move in, take a look around and decide, are there any shadows in particular areas that maybe a little extra light would help make those areas even more useful to you? I was very thankful that when I moved in, I had really adequate lighting in here. And these fluorescent lights I have above my head work out really great because they are in areas, say, over my hand tools and, of course, my power tool area that help to make sure that I'm working safely. But even in areas like where I'm going to be doing any finishing, it's nice to have really, really adequate lighting, because the worst thing that could happen is you get done with that project here in the shop, you then take it to where it's going to be, and when you see it in natural daylight, suddenly it doesn't look nearly as pretty. So take an opportunity to decide, do you need more lights? And is it the perfect time to install them now or after you actually put tools in place? Now, when it comes to the actual move itself, we're very tempted to just bring everything in and then start putting it wherever we think it's going to go. But I always recommend to folks, start at the walls, work your way down, and then start filling in the floor space with the larger items. And the main reason for this is it's so much easier to install shelves or cabinets, or in my situation, this wall of tools, when I'm not wrestling for space immediately in front of it with, say, my bench or whatever large power tool I have. Plus, on top of it, it also means that while I'm putting things in position on the walls, I may actually discover that they would be better suited in a different location. And once again, I don't have to worry about wrestling with all of this stuff in the way to move things around. It just makes it a lot easier for me to get everything in position and laid out the way I want it. Now, another thing, when you're bringing in those large tools, regardless of whether it's a table saw or maybe your bench or something, please get assistance from it. In my situation, coming down these stairs, I definitely needed a lot of assistance getting down here so I could safely do it, because number one, I didn't want to damage the tools, and number two, I didn't want to hurt myself. So please get assistance from folks, even if it's something as simple as taking it off of a trailer and moving it into a garage. You need as much assistance as possible because you want to be able to enjoy the shop that you're now setting up. So if you have any comments or tips or anything, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave those here in the show notes or in the video itself. We would, like I said, we would love to hear from you. And again, thank you to the folks over at Popular Woodworking for making this series possible.